Before we move off of eBIF, I have to bring up my soapbox item on behalf of the programmers in the room, and Patrick, if he's in here. Do you worry about the fact that if this all starts as things that you can click on an ad, that you're going to teach consumers that when the thing comes up that you click, it's an ad, and therefore they won't do it? In other words, David and Rebecca are all working on eBIF within content to do something better or different or more with the content.
It's a good question. I mean, actually, this is one where it's not just a single source saying, okay, it should be this. This is where we do have to, and we are working and need to work collaboratively across the industry on the presentation of this. I personally think that there's a different experience, and we can be a little bit more simple when we're talking about, say, putting an RFI on a 30-second spot. First of all, we're constrained to begin with. It's a 30-second spot, right? Second, you've got a different mindset for the viewer when they're watching a commercial versus watching their favorite program. So we can be, again, just my opinion, I think we can probably be a little bit more forceful with regards to the interactivity on the 30-second spot. So in other words, instead of giving you the opportunity or the option of clicking for getting an overlay screen down in 30 seconds, I don't have that much time. So somewhere 5 to 10 seconds into the beginning, into play, I'm going to drop an overlay screen. Right? I'm going to have a trigger embedded in a 30-second spot that will drop the screen and there give you the option, do you want to interact or not? Again, just my opinion. Versus if this was on top, if this was a program, favorite program, that's where I think that last panel is absolutely right. I mean, I respect all those people on it. And especially I think with, Gerard and Stephanie and Patrick, hundreds of years of experience on this thing, where the last thing you want to do is piss off the viewer, right? Right? I don't want to piss off your viewer, Rebecca. All right. So that's why we do need to set, and from the beginning, a template with regards to the functionality. But the user experience and the viewer experience, we have to work together and respect what's going to be the best way to engage that viewer. All right, on the programming side. The spot side, we're getting, like I said, we're definitely getting a lot of input from the advertising community that's basically saying, I don't have a lot of time, give them the interactive option, I want to see if they'll click on something, right? And that makes sense. So.
Yes. Go ahead.
Just to follow up on that, I'm with NAVIC, and we've done this kind of thing a lot in the local market.
Mm-hmm.
A very common trend that we see when we're doing interactivity during a program is the click-through rates on the interactivity during the spots within that program, these are completely unrelated content. We happen to have an RFI for an auto dealer.
They're higher, right?
They're
significantly higher, yeah.
It just seems
I know you did that in my old, well, before I was at Bright House. So we have NAVIC deployed across all of Central Florida.
So you're saying, like,
totally
if there's
agree.
clickability in a show, the clickability on the ads is higher?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah, which is why, that's a really good point that you raise up. What's your name? Which is one of the things that we were looking at even before in the college football 08 project and the Project Canoe stuff that we were doing a year and a half ago with Patrick back there, was the idea that a campaign really was a combined programming plus the ad pods that were contained within that program, right? Which is why we were looking, for example, at least as an experimental point, a college football game is a good proving ground for that, right? Providing a mixture of related interactivity on the programming that would be programmer directed and initiated, but then having related interactivity on the advertising pods embedded within that college football game, they would both interact, right? And the idea was never leave the channel, right? Provide some kind of relevance, generate more revenue, and do this on the MSO platforms.
All right, so going back to your priorities, there's the national addressability.
National addressability, the first half, eBIF national campaign in the second half. And then underlying all of this is building this CAS. I know some of you guys are familiar with it because some of you answered the RFI from Cable Labs that we helped put together
There's two
a year and a half
A's in
ago.
CAS.
Yeah, and it's a
it
terrible
does not stand
acronym.
for
I know.
Conditional Access System.
We've been for 2 years we've been apologizing for this acronym, but
Say it what it is.
CAS, C-A-A-S. It's the Common Advanced Advertising System. And what it is essentially is the sales stewardship platform that Canoe is building. right? It's
Above
the
the
filling.
line.
It's the filling. It's the filling in the sandwich.
It's the egg salad.
It's the egg salad. It's the liverwurst. It's whatever you want to eat.
Okay. See, it's lunchtime.
But it's really, CAS, think of CAS as three things, right? Three functional components. And the three functional components are an advanced order management system that comprises the input from like sales, research, also comprises the idea of order entry. That's the cash to order portion of the platform. The second key part of it is data management and data warehousing, right? Interrelated, but the data that's associated from all parties, not just the campaign data associated with a particular campaign, but the data that also informs the buying portion of the cycle, right? What are the capabilities of the platform? What inventory is available? In this case, Canoe's inventory is not a 30-second spot. Canoe's inventory to the programmers are the capabilities of the MSOs, right? And then the third portion of the CAS is content management, content delivery management. That doesn't mean that we're trying to supplant existing distribution channels for digital media delivery. So no, DG Fast Channel and Radiance, that's not what we're trying to we're not trying to supplant that, or GDMX or CMC. We're working with existing distribution channels. What we need to do is work with them so that we can provide a degree of campaign management for that content delivery. In the case of EVIF, we do need to provide actually that portion of, say, the information that's specific to that campaign. We will manage that and get that back in and integrate it in whatever reporting is necessary. So those are the three key parts of the CAS, right? So data, sales, and content. And what we're creating is essentially, it's you want to call it a distribution channel, feedback loop, FedEx. It's essentially a connection between, this platform connects between the buying side, programmers, networks, agencies, and the execution and performance and collection side, which are the participating MSOs.
This question right here.
Are the programmers worried that the operators will have access to data that valuable?
I don't. Actually, I'd let the programmers answer that one. But in my discussions with them, well before Canoe, there's already knowledge that there's information that can be collected by operators that could be valuable to programmers, could be valuable to a lot of people. B, we just haven't done anything collectively as an as an industry. When we have started to do some things, not necessarily on the video platform, because, say, on HSD, we kind of stubbed our toes. So we need to be a little smarter about that. I think, though, to answer your question, data really is at the core of a lot of what Canoe does. So we need to be working collaboratively on this. We're going to be hopefully very, very smart and careful on this. And part of that smart and careful is doing this together, right? There's value there for the programmers and networks. There's value there, obviously, for the MSOs, for the service operators who've got the last mile and into whose networks these devices plug into. And we have to, at the core of it, always respect the consumer, the customer, the issues of privacy, right? And the fact that whatever is going to be successful that we put together should take the form even of advocacy for the part of the user or the consumer, right? EVIF in every household.
The question was, what would make Canoe easier, right? And what was the second part?
My world's easier. Lunch. No, I think on the Canoe side, thank you for asking that question, by the way. I'd say the first one is that we as Canoe, if we could have bought the CAS, so to speak, or if we could have found that's the right solution out there, we would have done that. So, so what would make our life easier right now in the
You could have bought Navic. Just saying, since he's sitting right there. I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
That was a good one, Leslie.
Sorry. Everyone was thinking it.
Yeah, I know. And that's not to say that there aren't potential accelerants out there, either through partnership or whatever else, and assume that we're looking hot and heavy at how we can continue to accelerate on the CAS side. But what would help us really is not what's in the filling of the sandwich, right? What would help us first is on the MSO side. And that's where we're trying to work, and hopefully we're trying to work well collaboratively, but Canoe's not going to succeed if we don't have the capabilities below the line. All right? And if we can't coordinate those capabilities below the line, we're dead. I think that we will succeed. I just think that we have to be patient about it. Anyone who's worked for an operator or currently works for an operator or works with an operator knows that sometimes it can seem like getting over that first hump or that hill takes freaking forever. But if there's one thing that the MSOs are definitely good at doing, and I never knew what that was until I actually worked for one for a while. I was on the other side of the table going, easier to sell to telcos, is that you reach a tipping point, and then we're extremely good at the deployment side, at managing that last mile, right? And making sure that plant is extremely solid. So I know it's taking us longer collectively as an industry to get out EBIF. I do believe, my MSO founders, that they are committed to it. I know they're spending money on it. I know that those things are rolling out. Would I have wished that they were rolled out to full digital footprint last year? Sure, right? But we'll get there. We just have to give ourselves some time. So we're trying to build models that accommodate that kind of a growth. And I think the other thing to make the world easier, therefore, is we need to find ways to provide that kind of collaborative standardization, not jam down your throat standardization, on the north-facing interfaces with programmers and networks. And there, it's not just the communication and sales side in terms of the interfaces. It's what I think a lot of this, a lot of what the folks here do. I'm looking at Will Kreth over there, as well as Rebecca, which is how do we create common user experiences that make a heck of a lot of sense, right? So what would make my world easier at Canoe is getting collaborative and unified approaches on that, on around that subscriber. I don't own that subscriber as Canoe. I want to connect to that subscriber feed as Canoe.
In terms of cable operators and momentum, I always describe it as they don't move quickly until the stick is directly in their eye. Then they move fast. Tom.
I got to follow up on that. I don't know if this is working. Jeff Dukes, a couple weeks ago, got a lot of attention around TV everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Is there EBIT broadband as well? And is there Canoe broadband? And what does it look like?
Not in 2009, because then our heads would explode and we'd die. I think we've got plenty to do targeting the digital video platform right now, Tom. But assume that our charter as Canoe looks at all of the pathways and devices that are the MSO system, right? So yes, and again, it's not as much just the technology portion of that. How can we collect and present to those broadband IP-based devices? It's really the business portion of that as well. And being able to create the kind of models that are not silos, and then at the end of the day, and you know this very well, making sure that buyer sitting there at WPP knows how to buy it, right? So that is, again, from a Canoe view, when we think about broadband IP, when we think about connecting into the high-speed data platform, when we think about wireless as an adjunct or an ancillary to that IP broadband world, through the data side, yes, definitely that's great. It needs to be on our roadmap, is on our roadmap, want to do that. It's not as much a technical challenge because a lot of that technical challenge is actually being done by MSO brethren below the line. It's the business modeling and how do we actually buy and sell this stuff, right?
We have 5 more minutes, and we're open for your questions. You just actually asked my question. Thanks.
You did?
Well, we're in Silicon Valley. We're in the
Yeah, I know.
capital of the universe. Yes, Jeff.
Just to make sure clear on the timeline of CAS development, what is the timeline?
Oh, well, we're actually, we're going to have an early iteration, how's that for a phrase, of the order management portion of the CAS in time to support that CAM product. That's not the full, that's not the first full draft. That'll be operational for the interactive campaign in the second half of the year, before the end of the year. So that we're building the CAS now. So Canoe's building the CAS now.
Yes, Ed.
How have advertisers and brands reacted to the ad templates, as well as, you know, the variety of calls to action that you can deliver off of those templates?
Well, we haven't really presented the initial templates to a broad swath. I think we've been gathering a lot of voice of the customer input on that right now. At least our product groups have. But from what I've been in, some of the feedback I've gotten directly is there's an understanding that we need to start simply because the issue is scale, scale, scale. But there's definitely an impatience to want to add additional features. There's definitely an issue with and a mandate that, you know, don't screw with my brand. And there's definitely some lines drawn around user experience. So I think that's why, back to the earlier point that I said, we can't do jam downs on the application or the user experience side. That's a surefire way to fail. What we can dictate, and I use that word specifically, are the capabilities of the systems that we have to present on, that we have to collect from, right? And within those parameters, what kind of flexibility is there?
Wait, just one follow-up. When you say voice of the customer, who is it?
Who's Canoe's customer?
Who are you talking about?
The Canoe customer in that business model I described earlier is actually the programmers, networks, broadcasters, and through them, their agencies, right? Or the agencies that they deal with, that they, you know, who are actually purchasing their inventory.
Your point is you're not jumping through.
No, we're not.
The brand, you're focusing on the network.
Right, we're focusing on the networks as our customers. However, in order to have the right kind of experiences, we need to understand and hear directly, obviously, from the owners of those brands, et cetera. Not because we're going to sell them a product, you know, as Canoe, but because we're going to steward their product, right? And hopefully a product that they want and that they're willing to, you know, to purchase.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And with that, let's thank Arthur and close this panel. Hey, Arthur.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm impressed. Thanks. I'm coming back for this one.